서지 부기 주신 매톡전 리얼은 신인들은 바디 성계 신듬이 대알기 좁은 남다 신라지 발쇼 이람 그릇나만다라 감니 앞타야미 성계지랑 서기 적남람 전주 발드락니 겹스지 다히 증행기 백선함기 드라벤치르 성계를 발쇼 성계지랑 서기 적남람 전주 발드락니 겹스지 다히 증행기 백선함기 드라벤치르 성계를 발쇼 성계지랑 서기 적남람 전주 발드락니 겹스지 다히 증행기 백선함기 드라벤치르 성계를 발쇼.
Please take a moment to check yourself. Check in with the state of your mind and body. Tension, discomfort, agitation. Try to sit with your spine straight and your eyes comfortably closed. Try to relax a little bit. So please watch your breath for 7 rounds, beginning on an exhalation through the nostrils, just focusing on the sensation at the tips. And if you lose your focus and your mind is drawn out to sounds or other thoughts, then please start again at 1. In your heart, ask the holy being you're closest to come and join you here. Feel their presence or see them in your mind's eye, space before you, glowing in light. See yourself bowing down or prostrating or being respectful in some way. You can fill all of space with emanations of yourself doing this. Welcome them by offering them some object of beauty, whether it is some outer object or some inner quality or aspect of yourself, your practice, your virtue, your purity. Focus on your goodness and think about it very clearly. Get a very strong sense of it. Really feel it clearly and strongly and intensely. And offer that. To all beings everywhere. And now get a sense of your evil or negativity or nastiness, and feel it very clearly. Offer it to this holy being and ask them to help you clean it and purify it. And take it back from all of the beings everywhere. Withdraw it. All the beings we have inflicted upon for countless eons. Just withdraw it. Take it back. And feel this holy being blessing you, eliminating, cleaning, purifying. Ending it forever. Once again, bow down to them, thank them. Ask them from your heart to always remain with you, to help you, bring you to the end of every suffering, to every happiness, highest happiness. And they, of course, gladly agree and move to the space above our heads and become a crown ornament, glowing light, facing forward, small, brilliant, holy being. offering us their blessings there. All holy beings, thank you for coming. Homage to all holy beings everywhere. If you'd like to take your quiz, please take your quiz. Can you check the lights and see if they're on or what? Around. That's it? That's it. Going over here with the grading, Maria?
Yeah, Margaret and I are sharing it, so it's kind of some emailed, and that's an option if you want to email me.
I wanted to make an announcement. You may have already gotten it if you're on a selected email list. It's from DNKL Donakumbenling in Connecticut, and have some of you gotten it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to forward to the email list, but this is easier. So it says, "Dear friends, last weekend marked the conclusion of absolutely marvelous teachings by Gyume Khyentse Rinpoche on the 5 stages of the completion stage of the Goyal Samaja Tantra. Everyone who attended found it incredibly illuminating. So it's with great pleasure I'm writing to announce that Gyume Khyentse Rinpoche recently accepted a request of teaching a series of Mahayana instructions on the Great Seal Mahamudra. This system is based on Anatara Yoga Tantras by Master Saraha, Tilopa, Naropa, Nagarjuna. Main instructions focus on techniques for meditating upon the mind in order to achieve one-pointed concentration and attain a realization of the mind's ultimate nature." So it goes on, but anyway, the point is I know there are some people who are Mahamudra fans. I know Eve is a big Mahamudra fan. So if you are a Mahamudra fan, or you'd like to learn more about Mahamudra, it says this is going to take place in New York City from August 11th to 19th, 9 consecutive days at Jewel Heart Center in Tribeca, 2 classes a day, 10 to 12 and 2 to 4. Ending at approximately 4:30. Teachings will address the non-tantric elements of these instructions. No prerequisites or restrictions. However, there is limited space. So, albeit it's in August, tickets are distributed on a first-come, first-served basis. Only persons who present their ticket at the door will be permitted to attend. So, if you'd like to attend, please send an email. The first 120 tickets are it. After that, we're done. I'm paraphrasing. Etc. etc. We'll be, get your tickets now. We'll be in touch later to confirm. Information on this teaching has not yet been widely disseminated. It will go in Snowline and will be widely circulated. So if you want to attend, get your teachings now before they're gone. Paraphrase. Email. It's DNKL in Connecticut. It just says DNKL Tibetan Buddhist Center because they're on my email list. Their website is dnkldharma.org. I'm sure.
I have it here. It's volunteer@dnkldharma.org.
Okay.
So actually, there's a special email for that.
Oh. Okay.
They said respond to this one.
To the volunteer.
That's what it says in the email.
Does anybody know if the dates conflict with Krishna Michael's August retreat?
Don't know.
Do we know the dates?
I don't know.
Well, what are the dates of that?
August. I just said. I think it was August 11th to 19th. To go back.
Is that complete?
Is it same time? Anybody know?
I was talking to the dog.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyway, you can work it out. 11th to the 19th.
Yes, start from 17. Krishna start from 17 to 20.
Is that here in the city?
No,
In Arizona. All right. So if you're in the city and you're not going to Arizona, here's a great parallel opportunity. If you are going to Arizona, never mind. All right. All right. Okay. I just wanted to pass that on. So tonight, our topic is mental afflictions. How to fight mental afflictions. Wow. And I was walking here. Yeah, right. I was walking here. Since it's a lovely night, I was walking. It's about a half an hour walking. Plenty of opportunity to see mental afflictions just on the sidewalk on the way over here. I was just like, wow, there's a lot of mental afflictions around the streets, you know? So, I mean, I suppose first we have to talk about what is a mental affliction, right? You have to be clear on what it is that we're talking about. Like, did anybody have one today? I don't know. Is anyone feeling afflicted? I mean, did we walk around going, I'm afflicted. I'm so afflicted. We don't normally think like that, right? No. So Master Shantideva has this thing about mental afflictions, and he's pretty wrathful with them. You'll see in the reading, when you get to the reading. He says, basically, you know, you have to know who your enemy is. They're your enemy, and you have to know who your enemy is. If you're going to be clear about fighting your enemy, you have to be clear on who your enemy is, right? This is not quite Lao Tzu, but anyway. And he says, you know, you really, if you have a true enemy, you have to wage war with your enemy. Wage war with your enemy. And you have to know who they are and how to wage war. And so Master Shantideva has a battle plan of sorts and a strategy for waging war with this enemy of mental afflictions. So we need to talk about the mental afflictions and what they are, and you know, maybe talk about some strategies for the war against them, should you so choose to engage in battle. Please say Nyomo.
Nyomo.
Nyomo means mental affliction. It's from Sanskrit klish root, klesha, and it basically means anything which irritates you, harasses you, bothers you, bugs you, disturbs your mind, upsets you, right? Any bad thought which bothers your mind or upsets your mind. So, walking over here this evening, I was trying to really pay attention and really be mindful, because coming to teach class and shouldn't be completely mindless and oblivious and randomly afflicted, right? So it was very interesting, walking down the sidewalk, and there were two people in front who are walking, and there's garbage bags lined up on the side, and I'm walking behind them slowly, going, okay, I'll just wait to pass. Guy comes zipping up behind me, tries to pass, he can't get by on the left, and tries to pass, he can't get by on the right. Just like, right? And he's like, oh, you're waiting too. So, that's a mental affliction, right? It's just that moment of, the mind is upset, right? The mind is disturbed, right? From my side, I'm walking down the sidewalk and trying to be very aware, and I get to 9th Street between Broadway and Lafayette, and I'm walking by, and there's the Nielsen building. I look down and I see the AOL logo, and I go, it's an affliction, right? It just like pops into the head, right? Crappy AOL, it's an affliction, right? I mean, my mind was disturbed for a split second. I was like, damn, why do I have an affliction about AOL, I mean, not to go into it, right? But, I mean, they just come, right? They just pop up, right? And, it's like moment to moment, walking down the street, almost inescapable. And those are small. Those are obviously very tiny mental afflictions, very quick fluctuations in the mind, in the equilibrium of the mind, and the hopefully happy state of the mind, right? I mean, in principle, we'd be in at least a neutral frame of mind, or a neutral state, hopefully some kind of positive, uplifted, happy state, right? And then the mind would, with an affliction, the mind would fluctuate and go into some kind of unpleasant or negative or unhappy or suffering state, right? So that's the idea of the afflictions, right? Which of course has a definition. So please say Semyu, Mashiwa, Jepe, Semjung. So Semyu is your mind stream, your mind stream. And does anybody remember what Shiva is? Peace. Yeah, peace. Ma is negative, right? No peace. Right? Jepe means makes. And a Sejung is a thought or a mental function. So the definition of a mental affliction is a thought which upsets your peace of mind, your state of mind, right? Any thought which disturbs your mind. It ruins your peace of mind, right? Something goes on in your mind, there's some mental activity there, some mental function arises, some mental fluctuation occurs, it doesn't matter what you call it. You know, you're bugged. Your mind is upset, your mind is disturbed. Right? And the reason they call nirvana peace, right? I mean, Shiva is synonymous with nirvana. We've talked about nirvana, right? So, nirvana is called peace. Why is it called peace, would you imagine?
It's not mental affliction.
Yeah, you don't have any mental afflictions. You're at peace, right? Which we're not. I mean, if the arhats, those who have achieved nirvana, their mind doesn't fluctuate from that state of happiness, from that state of positive, blissful existence, right?
There is a real difference between a valid description and a valid definition of something. And this, which is a simple statement, is really more of a description than a definition, because you can take any object of attention and it will disturb the mind of one person and please the mind of another person. So what it winds up being is circular. It doesn't tell me what disturbs the mind. It only describes that when the mind is disturbed, it is afflicted. So I'm still looking for a definition.
Well, it would be a thought.
Yeah.
Which
well,
disturbs
if I'm a
the
Boston
mind.
fan, thought of the Yankees.
Well, yeah,
It's
sure.
worse, but if I'm a Yankee fan, same thought of the Yankees is so pleasant. So
Yeah.
one was an affliction and one was uplifting.
For you.
So I still don't have the definition.
But you do. It's just not the definition of a self-existent affliction. Right? An affliction for you could be a happy thought for someone else. Right? An event, forget about a thought. An event, the Yankees winning. Were you the Yankees fan or the Sox fan? I forgot.
Yeah.
The Yankees. I'm sorry. The Yankees fan. I should have known. But I just wanted to double check before I misspoke. Okay. Okay. So as a Yankees fan, as a die-hard, lifelong Yankees fan, and they win the game or the series, you're very happy. You're not afflicted. Somebody else who placed a bet on the Sox or loves the Sox and hates the Yankees is terribly afflicted by the same thing.
The question was, is a Yankee win in the World Series an afflictive thought or not?
From its own side.
Well, at all, by anybody. So then, we still don't have, we have a description.
But you see, you're going back, if I understand you, you're looking for a self-existent affliction.
Which is the usable one.
Well, they're usable. I mean, we use them all the time. He said, I mean, there is no such thing as a self-existent affliction. There's no such thing as a self-existent anything. Right? Nothing exists from its own side, including an affliction. Right?
Well, then can I say that an affliction really isn't an affliction?
For me versus for you. You have to always say for me or for you. Whenever you're talking about something being pleasurable or painful or a valid perception, you know, this room is paradise for you, perhaps. This room is, a little bit dark for me. So it's the same perception. It's the same room and the same lighting and everything else. So it's a different perception for me versus for you, and that's the nature of lack of self-nature or emptiness or self-existencelessness, right? And the same is true, just as that's true of this room. It's also true of an affliction. It's true of a mental activity. It's true of a mental event, just as it's true of a wall or a place or a yelling boss or a pen or anything else. So like that. So, but it's a really nice refinement and qualification. So we have to say, and that's why they talk about a thought. There is no absolute pin it down. This thing will always be an affliction no matter what, right? Well, we'll talk about it. We get into that a little bit. This thing is never an affliction, and we talk about there's actually some things which are, by definition, afflictions, and things which are not. So we'll talk about it. We'll get into it. But this, just in a broad sense, from the perspective of a broad overview. There's a little more light. Thank you. I knew it wasn't quite right. I don't know what I'm saying. We'll talk about it. So, for an arya, for an arhat, to take your point further, is it possible for an arhat, for someone who's achieved nirvana, to have a terrible death? Head chopped off, or like the king of Kalinka, and I don't remember the name of the victim. Being chopped up into little bits slowly, right? Because of sitting in the forest with the queen, talking pleasantly. Too suspicious, right? It's another story for another day. But if you recall when we talked about nirvana, there's nirvana with remainder and nirvana with no remainder, right? Does anybody remember? What's nirvana with remainder? You achieve it, for example, you would achieve nirvana in this life, right? But guess what? You still have the body. Nirvana is a mental state, right? It's a state where nothing disturbs your peace. Nothing upsets your mind. No thought occurs to your mind. No affliction occurs to your mind, right? So if somebody's cutting you up, your mind's still not afflicted if you're an arhat.
So it's not a terrible day though, to the arhat still.
Well, it's painful.
Right.
I mean, it's not like they don't feel pain. Arhats do feel pain, and they do experience bodily sensation, but their mind isn't disturbed by it. So if there's it's hard for us to conceive it, right? But by definition, when you become an arhat, when you attain nirvana, if you do it in this life, your body will remain as this body, and then when this body has come to its end, then you attain nirvana with no remainder, which is this purely mental, blissful experience with no suffering body, and that's your status from then on until you get bumped up to Mahayana track eventually. Right? So that's real peace. It's like I don't know. Imagine I've never had a good drug trip really. So imagine like some kind of great drug trip with no side effects that never ends, and you never have to take another pill or something. I don't know. Hector's he's like, woo! He's like, sign me up. You're signed up. All right. Now the bad news. That's not a pill. Sorry, we're gonna get into that. See if you anyway. And so this, the mental affliction could last 20 seconds. It could last 2 seconds. It could last 20 years, right? I mean, I remember back when I lived in California, I was in a men's group, and there's this guy who was really annoying. Like I was in a men's group workshop for a weekend, and he made some comment to me, like some kind of underhanded comment to me as I was leaving, as I was walking out the door, and it was like a sort of like a personal attack of type, right? And I didn't go back for like 5 years. It's like I moved away, and I went back 5 years later, and there was another men's group, and I went and said hello to everybody, and the guy was there, I was like 5 years later, I was like, oh, you. I'm gonna have it out with you now, I was like a comment, and it's 5 years later, and I'm ready, right? That's the nature of mental affliction, right? It can go on for many, many, many years, right? All life long, right? I mean, the Hatfields and McCoy or whatever, I don't know, So, yeah. So, what's the problem with the mental affliction? What's the big deal with mental affliction? Why care? I mean, what's the downside? Any ideas?
Just keeping you in that samsara.
Well, yeah, it keeps you, it's a very sophisticated answer. More simply,
If you drain your energy instead of doing the positive thing you can do to use the time.
We start planning negative things.
Well, you can't think about positive things because you have a negative thought in your mind. So.
well, just in a practical sense, if you have an affliction, how are you feeling?
Not very clear.
Unhappy. I'm looking for the very simple, basic, if you have afflictions, you're unhappy. Okay? So, the problem with afflictions is, life sucks when you have afflictions, right? It's a crappy life if we have afflictions, right? I mean, whenever we have afflictions, we're miserable by definition. We're unhappy by definition. Right? Yeah.
This is always confusing. Are you collecting back, are you collecting a negative karmically when you're having a negative affliction, or will you be making a negative? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's always like, am I receiving or am I getting it?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
No, I do.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm off.
So no, it's exactly right. So, look, we have a mental affliction, right? We're unhappy. It ruins the day. I mean, you have a mental affliction, it could ruin your whole day. It could ruin your week. It could ruin your God knows how long, right? I mean, we're unhappy. You know, it occupies our mind. It takes up our energy and, you know, precious mental real estate and all the rest, right? And then what does it mean karmically, right?
Yeah.
So what does being unhappy mean karmically, right?
Non-virtue.
Well, any unhappy state of mind is a non-virtue by definition, right? I mean, what is negative karma? Negative karma is an unpleasant experience, a suffering, a pain, right? Unhappiness. So anything which is any unhappy state of mind by definition is non-virtue, okay? Now, are you collecting a new non-virtue when you're unhappy? So you have to make the distinction between past karma ripening and future karma collecting, right? Anything that arises is an expression of past karma ripening, right? Including our unhappiness, including, you know, people saying unpleasant things to us as we walk out the door that you remember for 5 years and, you know, can't let go of, right? Or that somehow it's like floating around back there, just out of sight around the corner, but didn't leave the room, you know? You don't even know it's there until it pops up again, right?
Right.
So, a karma, what's that? Ripening of a past karma into unhappiness is a non-virtue ripening. It is a cause for a future karma, right? Now, what karma you collect is another question, okay? So any unhappy state of mind is the ripening of a past karma and the cause which will lead in the next moment to the collection of future karma. So this moment is the cause, this moment is the point at which you're collecting your future karma, right? So the present moment you've got two things going on, past karma ripening, collection of new karma. So it's like that. Now, being unhappy in the present moment is not by definition collecting a future negative karma. It is by definition a past negative karma ripening, right? That makes sense?
Yeah, to put it really simply, like let's say when my coworker really pisses me off, and I'm like, but you know, you don't react to it, or you know, but you're collecting that, and you're like, and you just don't react to it. What, like let's say you're like you said in your example, how you let it kind of slowly in a way simmer, like it's still in there, and then 5 years later you're like, you know, but maybe you didn't. But I mean, aren't you still kind of
afflicted?
You know, yeah.
Well, this is what we have to talk about. You know, that's our practice and that's our training, right? So, and that's why it's over and over and over again. What do you do with the angry boss? What do you do with the nasty coworker? What do you do with, you know, the problem that's occurring today? How do you deal with the problems that are occurring today, right? And the state of mind that we bring to bear in the present moment is the collection of the future karma. So, you know, I have the karma of not being able to pass the lady on the sidewalk and have to walk by a long row of garbage bags slowly, and, you know, am I annoyed? Well, you know, there's an impulse to be annoyed, but I restrain it. It's not very hard, right? So I don't have that, what's wrong with you people, get out of my way, you dumbheads, you know, going on in my mind. Which would be an affliction and a collection of negative karma.
So you wouldn't collect a negative karma, right?
Most of the karma we collect is mixed. You know, in this realm, in human beings, most of the karma we collect is mixed. It's very hard for us to have a completely pure mind and a completely pure intention and a completely pure motivation, ever. And, you know, we talk...
Is it the unhappy state of mind is not a collection of future bad karma, but your reaction?
Yeah, again, so let's say... look, so, I mean, is there a point in time at which it shifts? I mean, that's, I think, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Where is the exact point in time at which... Well, here we go, see? I mean, you asked for it, okay? What does the sutra say? There is no starting,
right.
There is no abiding, and there is no stopping. Can you find the starting point?
No.
No. You can always divide a point into two smaller points.
But had you reacted to the people around the garbage, you said you controlled yourself at that moment.
Well, again, it's a spectrum. If you want to talk about time as a continuum, right, which is how we experience it in our ordinary reality, right? So, I have this experience, I'm walking down the street, there's some impulse arises, karma ripens, impulse arises, thought occurs, get out of my way. And then what happens in the next instant? I mean, it doesn't matter what thought arises, you see? I mean, is there a referee going like, look, the first 5 seconds you have a grace period. After the first 5 seconds,
but
you're collecting the new karma, okay?
You didn't start cursing in the middle of the street and causing
Or you weren't even bothered by it.
You could have.
But again, here's the thing, okay? At what point does the old karma end and the new karma begin? That's what you're asking, okay? You can't ever find a point in time. No self-existent. I don't mean to be evasive here, okay? There is a point in time does not exist in the way we normally think of it. So I think it's sufficient to say that there is a stream, right, of mind, which is occurring. Our mind streams from moment to moment. Impulses are occurring in our mind and heart, right, and being. We have the experience of that impulse. It's like, or whatever it is, dumbhead, whatever. It might be a feeling, it might be a thought, it might be an action, it might be a word. More subtle impulses are more subtle. More crude, coarse impulses are more crude and coarse. Call it an impulse, call it a karma, right? Doesn't matter. Call it whatever you want. So, we have this manifestation that arises within us, and then we go, but I don't want to do that. Let me be nice to them, okay? Let me try to be patient and pleasant and wait a moment and be happy and send them some love, okay? Now, if you want to call that a 30-second process, okay? Does it really matter that the first 5 seconds were the and the last 25 seconds were the loving, patient thoughts? It's not really the point. The point is you're 95-5, okay? Or whatever it is. 80-20, okay? So I don't think splitting hairs serves the point or is useful. I think if you think of it, the mind is streaming, okay? Moment to moment, karma is expressing itself and being collected. How many times in an instant? You're collecting 64 karmas. Which of those 64 karmas was the end of the old karma and the beginning of the new karma in that instant? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. It's the proportion. To me, it's the proportion that counts, you see? Like, in a moment of thought, in a moment of reaction, in a moment of impulse, what percentage was virtuous? What percentage was negative? You see what I mean? Yeah. So, and that applies not to just a moment, but your entire life, to our entire life, you see? What percentage of our life is impulsively negative? What percentage of our life is trained or reflexive virtue and love? So you see? Yeah.
Just to piggyback on that, I mean...
And I'm sorry, I just have to interject. That's my personal take. That's not the script sutra. I have to always try to be clean. Sorry, go ahead.
Always my personal take. I don't know. But for me, at least, in realizing, when these things arise, it's how much, not so much what's happening, but how much awareness you have surrounding what's arising. Like, are you attaching I or a self to that affliction? Because that is going to make it a lot more negative than if it's like, okay, this thing's arising, like this impulse, this manifestation of something's happening, and fading out just like the sounds in the room. Like, how much can you take space and awareness from that in order to see it, shift? Because as soon as you say, that's my coworker and this is me and I hate them, then it's gonna get blacker and blacker, right? As soon as you can just start seeing.
There are a lot of methods and techniques. I mean, Master Shantideva goes into a lot of methods and techniques for dealing with the problems of the mind. But really what we're talking about is, collecting karma. And so that goes back to the karmic path and collecting a full karmic path. Excuse me, if one is going to collect a full negative karma, one needs to have a complete karmic path with all 4 components present. And we talked about that in Course 5, So there are a lot of techniques to try to not collect a full karmic path, including being aware of emptiness, which is the most powerful one. Being aware of a lot of different angles and ways of using emptiness to not get into subject, object, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, so a very good technique, and you find the one that works, whichever one works for you, right? I mean, whatever's working for you and whatever's doing it for you is the point. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, back to Paul's comment, to relate to yours, is it's impossible to send a knife on the wheel of sharp knife. You get hit by a knife, it's impossible to send it around to hit you again if you're in fact thinking on emptiness or not thinking of a self. So Paul said, well, you did not react on the sidewalk by screaming and yelling at anyone. That's not what the knife is. The knife is actually the thought of selfishness, or maybe just the indignance or the self-awareness that you might have if you're not thinking in terms of emptiness or in terms of knowledge.
But it seems like the mental affliction is the ripening of past karma, and it kind of creates the potential, depending on how you react, to collect a lot more negative karma.
Yeah.
Like the ground is laid there for it.
And that's emptiness, isn't it? Anything has the potential to be anything, right? So in the next moment, what will manifest and what will arise as an expression of karma onto a blank screen? Yeah. So what you do with it is the point. Collecting karma and manifesting karma every instant.
So the reaction to the worst affliction, if you're steadfast and you hold emptiness and you hold your highest wisdom, could be the cause for your greatest awakening.
Oh, totally, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, there's the beautiful tanka of Shakyamuni Buddha. It wasn't the cause for his awakening, but there's the beautiful tanka of Shakyamuni Buddha, the moment of his enlightenment, where all the demons and Mara and throwing spears and shooting arrows and attacking him, and is just surrounded by a halo of flowers because his perception and his virtue is such that everything is pure, and to them, to those afflicted beings and demons and those trying to disturb him in his final enlightenment, they're seeing themselves throwing spears, and he's seeing flowers coming towards him. Because they're not self-existent. Anything can be anything. The object which they threw as a spear was experienced and came to him as a flower. Because the object is empty, not self-existent. But anyway, that's another class, another time. It's just a beautiful talk, and it relates to what you're saying, Hector. But it's not the cause, but it's the same principle, right? Which is anything.
Does Sean sometimes feel really unforgiving, though? Like
it is. Are you kidding?
I mean, oh my God,
yeah.
It's easy when you're feeling good, and but I'm tired today, and I just say, could care less. Just leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're like, what am I creating out of this state? You know what I mean? What am I?
Yeah.
It's so relentless. It's like absolutely it's the definition of relentless.
Yeah. Yeah. Master Shantideva talks about it. He has some choice words to say about that exact thing. So we'll come to it. He has a lot to say about our mental afflictions and what they're like and how they are and what we should do and what to do about all that. Right? So we have to talk about it. We have to get into it. So in the text, Master Shantideva goes into, there's different kinds of mental afflictions. There's these 3 divisions. There's 4 subdivisions of those. There's 3 subdivisions of those. I'm not going to do that so much. It's in the reading. You can read it. But we need to talk about, what are those mental afflictions? What are the main mental afflictions? What are the things which most disturb our mind? And then how do you deal with them? Right? I mean, how do you think about them? How do you relate to them? How do you react to them? How do you engage them or not? Right? How to position relative to them? Right? Do they kick our butt or do we kick their butt? Right? It goes both ways, I suppose. Right? Hopefully, we're kicking more butt. So, you never know, right? So the first one, these top 6. Remember, how many mental afflictions?
84,000.
84,000 mental afflictions. These are the 6 main top mental afflictions, the leaders of the pack. 6 worst mental afflictions. So please say dusha.
Dusha.
It's called. Sometimes it's translated as anger or desire, but not so useful. It's like, do we walk around really angry? I mean, sometimes. Right? I mean, sometimes it's just like, I'm so pissed off, Not usually though, right? I mean, that's not our normal, hopefully not our normal state of affairs every day, right?
So is liking, not disliking, is it?
We'll come to it. So, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm on the wrong one. Desire. Thank you, Hector. I don't know Tibetan, so Hector's helping me out. He's looking at the cheat sheet. I was on number 2. I take it back. I'll come back to it. All right. The first one means desire or attachment. I don't know Tibetan, but I say the Tibetan because it makes me sound like I know. Somehow people appreciate the foreign language. I don't know. Anyway, desire or attachment. So do we walk around going like, I'm so attached to this latte. I cannot live without this latte. I don't know, maybe, right? Sometimes in the morning, yeah. First thing in the morning, yes, right? You know, or do we walk around going like, God, I have so much desire for, I don't know, who's the hot person today? I don't know. It's not Katy Perry, right? Or I don't know, who the hell it is.
Is it Barbara Streisand?
yeah, right, thank you, yeah. In my day, right? You know, it's like, I have so much desire for, I mean, give me a name, come on. Somebody throw
Ryan
a name.
Gosling.
Who? Ryan Gosling, thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God, he's so hot.
Yeah. I have so much desire for Ryan Gosling. Oh my God. I mean, do we walk around going like, I got desire for Ryan? You know?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Right? Sometimes, but not usually, right? I mean, sometimes it comes up in a big way, right? But not usually. I mean, maybe Ryan's on our mind all day long. I don't know, you know, but probably not. Probably just on occasion, I would guess. Yeah. So, but they're not. That's not a great translation, right? Attachment, desire. It's really liking things ignorantly, which we've talked about before, right? Which is pervading our mind all day long. It's constant. It's there. It's this undercurrent, this constant undercurrent, right? So, I mean, is there anything wrong with liking something? You know, I think we talked about it before. The difference between liking something and ignorantly liking something. You know, do the Buddhas like paradise? Yeah. You know, should we like nirvana? Yeah. You know, is there anything wrong, you know, with liking things? No. Right? I mean, if you look at a tanka, right? They don't paint some, you know, garbage in the background and like dog pee and poo in the corner, you know. Like paradise does not have crap, right? They have a paradise and they like it, okay? It's not that we're supposed to just say, oh, things can be garbage, things can be crap, it's okay, you know, I'm not supposed to like anything. I'm supposed to be okay with, you know, living, you know, with garbage and dog pee and all the rest. It's just normal. It kind of is here, but in paradise, no. So there's no problem to like something, and there's no problem to want good things, you know. There's no problem to want to have a good meal and to enjoy a good meal, right? Fine, no problem at all. Enjoy a good meal, think correctly about it, you know, be aware of our bodhisattva vows if we have them. I'm eating this good meal and fueling this body and, you know, going out to help people and going out to benefit. And I'm enjoying this meal to, you know, to further my spiritual practice and to benefit as many beings as possible. And I'm enjoying it, right? No problem at all, right? So, to like things ignorantly, right? What has to be there?
Self-existent.
Yeah, some kind of non-virtue in our mind. I mean, which comes from seeing things as self-existent. You know, it's not possible to have some kind of afflictive non-virtue arise in our mind if we don't see something as self-existent. We must see something as self-existent for an affliction to arise and for some kind of non-virtue to arise in our mind, right? So, you know, it's like, you know, you see Ryan Gosling or whatever hot person that you're attracted to, right? And you're just like, oh my God, I have to have them. I just have to have them, you know? And if I don't have them, like I'm going to be unhappy, right? And I have to do anything to get them, and I don't care if they're married. I don't care if I got a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and I don't care if I have to lie to them or whatever I got to do. You know, I have to have them because then I'll be happy, right? Well, that's thinking that the happiness is coming from them, right? That's thinking that somehow they contain the pleasure. That's somehow thinking that their shape and their form and their texture and their touch and their body and their feelings and their, you know, all the rest is the source of the happiness. That's ignorance. That's ignorantly liking something. That's saying, if I could just touch that shape and if I could just feel that feeling, I'd be happy, you know? Woohoo! Let me go get it, you know, because then I'll be happy, right? But it's ignorance. It doesn't understand that the happiness does not come from any given object, whether it's a hot person or a meal or, you know, anything else, right? And so that's liking things ignorantly. It's going like, God, they're hot. Well, that's ignorance. That's liking things, and we do that all day long, probably. You know, I don't know. I can't speak for you. You're all, you know, very holy. An ordinary person probably thinks like that, you know, or they think, I really want that object in the store window because then I'll be happy, or I really want that scone, or whatever it is, or latte, or whatever it is, because then I'll be happy, right? So that's ignorance. That's ignorantly liking things, right? So, you know, it means that because we don't want to lose the thing that we like, we'll do pretty much anything. Because we think the pleasure resides and the happiness resides in that object, that self-existent outer object. And because we think the pleasure and the happiness resides in the self-existent outer object, we're unethical. You know, we engage in harming others or ourselves. Potentially. Don't have to, but you know, that's the danger, that's the risk, right? And then as a result, we collect negative karma, as was said previously, and we're screwed in the future, right? So we have problems in the future, right? So being willing to do non-virtue to get things or keep things is ignorantly liking something, right? Yeah.
Well, just as the pleasure or the happiness was not resident in the exterior object, why would we say that our own non-virtue or our own absence of ethics is somehow self-existently connected, okay, with the temptation that object presents? Isn't it resident in us? Just the same way that the happiness is resident in us.
Totally.
So our unethical behavior is resident in us. The only thing that the outer object does is expose it.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that a hot person is like somehow like definitively dangerous and unethical. No, I wasn't saying that. I didn't mean to say that. I was simply saying seeing something as self-existently desirable has implicit to it the risk of being unethical because of self-existent view. Like if I think this is self-existently delicious and it's not mine and I want it and I'm going to eat it, you know, and I do.
How is it?
It's not self-existent. The first moment of the bite, no. So my point, Bruce, is the point that I was making or trying to make was simply that self-existence, self-existent view has implicit within us the danger of being unethical to get something. That's where the danger resides, not in the hotness factor or the appeal factor. Okay, the self-existent view has the implicit danger associated with it. Because with the self-existent view, our judgment is off. Our awareness and our perception is off. If I think the pleasure resides here, okay, and I really, really want it, then my judgment is messed up. The self-existent view totally messes with my head, totally confuses me, it's totally upside down and backwards. And then I go like, well, all that matters is I have the pleasure and get the pleasure. Let me just take it and eat it, even if it's not mine. Because then I got the pleasure, right? Because I got the pleasure from taking the bite, and that was the source of the pleasure, and I got the pleasure I wanted, so why not? That's the problem.
So is it the thought that the object exists inherently from its own side that is causing it to be ignorant liking, or is it that we would do anything, even a non-virtuous act, to get it that makes it ignorant liking? And for example, say something does, I mean, I've heard people say that emptiness does exist inherently, maybe from something. So say our object of attachment was that we wanted to reach emptiness, direct perception of emptiness. Could that be, ignorant?
Well, we're going to talk about it. These are among the top 6 mental afflictions, or different permutations or different variations on this theme. But just briefly, it's our default way of thinking to think of things as self-existent. You see? I mean, it's just what we do.
Understood.
So there are actually many skillful teachings and methods in the path that use self-existent thinking as a path to gain realizations. Think of this person as self-existently holy. It's useful. No problem. Well, it could be a problem. But anyway, the point is there are many skillful teachings, many skillful means. We're like, look, you're going to think self-existently anyway. If you're going to think self-existently, well, hell, at least think this way self-existently. At least you can be virtuous by thinking this way self-existently.
It's just saying nothing exists inherently.
No, everything is empty. Yeah, emptiness is empty.
Emptiness is empty.
Emptiness is empty of self-existence. Otherwise,
So
wouldn't be
my-
emptiness.
So my question would be like, to be liking something ignorantly would just be thinking of it as existing from its own side, or would it be willing to do something non-virtuous to get it, or would it be any combination, either
There's
or?
there's two pieces, right? And we talked about it in a previous class where we talked about the chain of causation. I don't remember which class it was. There's a certain chain of causation which occurs, right? There's 4 steps in the process of how mental affliction arises. Does anybody remember? Anyway, I don't remember either. But generally.
Well, we're seeing self as self-existent.
Well, no. First, there's a seed. There's a seed to see something as self-existent. I'm not going to go into it because it's in the karma class. It was five courses ago. 60 classes ago.
No, then it's like ignorance.
Right. So, but anyway, to answer your question, so there's 2 things going on, right? One is seeing something as self-existent. What does that mean? What that means is, I think that the pleasure and the tastiness and the delicious quality of this cookie resides in the cookie. Right? In fact, I think that I am just the receptor. I'm like a big nerve cell or something, whatever. I just take in data through my senses. Everything out there is broadcasting to me. I'm taking in sounds through my ears and sights through my eyes and smells through my nose and touch and, things from my skin. And I'm just a receiver, man. All I do is receive what I'm sent. Okay? It's about what's out there. It's about what's broadcasting the message to me. Right? I'm the receiver, everything's the broadcaster, end of story. That's thinking things are self-existent. Okay? It's the opposite. Okay? I do take in data through my senses, and I conceive of it, and perceive it, and conceptualize it in a particular way, totally unique to me, and project that onto the outer data. Okay? That's being aware of dependent origination and emptiness. So if you think something self-existent, it's thinking it resides within this. The tastiness and the texture and the flavor reside in this thing. There's a kind of lemony, soft, a little bit crunchy, a little bit sugary thing going on right here. Okay?
That's mean.
Sorry. Okay, and it's got nothing to do with me. I just happen to have a teeth and teeth chewing and tongue tasting, and it's coming into my teeth and into my tongue, and I'm just getting it because I have a tongue and I have teeth and I have taste buds, and I'm just picking up what's there, man. And I don't understand what I don't realize, and that's self-existent thinking. What I don't realize and what I don't understand is that my mind or a different mind could be perceiving the exact same sensory inputs completely differently. That's emptiness. And if I had a different mind, or if my mind functioned in a different way, or if I had different impulses or imprints, or patterning, or energetic configuration, or whatever you want to call it, of my mind, I would be experiencing it validly in a totally different way. Like if you're an ant or a dog or a craving spirit or whatever. Anyway, so that's the idea. So that's the self-existing component. Now, based on that, what do you do? Do you go eat somebody's cookie when it's not yours, or do you, say, no, I shouldn't steal and I shouldn't eat somebody's cookie, but even though, blah, blah, blah. Because I understand karma and emptiness and ethics and how it all works and yada, yada, yada. So that's not ignorantly liking something. Ignorantly liking something is going like, yeah, it's all in there. So, and all I care is that it's being a consumer, It's like existing as a consuming being. Like we see someone beautiful, we want to take them into us and absorb them into us and consume them and subsume them and make them part of us, right? It's like if I could only get their beauty inside myself, if only I could get their joy inside myself, if only I could get their love inside myself, I'd be happy, right? Or if only I could get the cookie inside myself, or whatever it is, right? Or whatever, So, and it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's what is arising within us is what we're experiencing, okay? You can't take an outer experience and plant it inside, It's an expression of the inner, which is experienced, as a projection on the outer. What's arising in our heart and in our mind is what we project onto the things around us. I should probably move on because we've got a long way to go, guys. Yeah. Oh, we're done. Okay. All right. Number one. Okay. So please say control. But it's good to ask questions, and I really do want to talk about it. So please don't restrain yourself, but please don't mind if we go over too. Okay? It's important we talk about it. And I don't have too much to say. I'd rather have a discussion and talk to you about it. So this is back to anger and hatred, right? Often translated as anger or hatred. And so it's disliking things ignorantly. Same principle, same idea. But it's the idea of like, my pain, my suffering, and my unhappiness are coming from the person who's yelling at me right now, okay? I'm validly perceiving someone as yelling at me right now. It is happening. It is a manifestation of my world and my reality, and I am experiencing it in a particular way, which is particularly unpleasant, and I want to get rid of it. I don't want this pain and suffering. I want to get rid of this pain and suffering. Because the pain and suffering is coming from him or her. You know, my old boyfriend or girlfriend is such a pain in the ass. Okay? If only I could get rid of them, I could be happy. You know? Right? Or whatever. You know, you pick your person, right? Pick anyone you like. It's not coming from them. Right? It's arising within me. And so it's the same principle, right? So it's recognizing the pain is not coming from that. It's recognizing it's arising within me, and it's the experience of my mind and my karma and my energetic impulses and heart and all the rest, you know. And that's what I have to deal with. And it's not about. So what would it look like to ignorantly dislike them? You say, "You are such a lousy boyfriend. Hit the road," you know, or whatever, right? I don't know. I mean, what would you say? I don't know. No.
I will do screw up.
Yeah. Better to leave the room yourself, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's clear, right? I don't need to say too much about it, do I? Questions? No? Issues? So, but does that mean that, you know, if somebody's yelling at someone else and mistreating them, that you should go like, well, you know, I can't ignorantly not like that. You know, if you see someone mistreating anyone, you know, I mean, your neighbor is mistreating their spouse or someone mistreating their child on the subway. We were just talking on the way up. It's like, yeah, there's the little child on the subway, and you could tell that she was afraid of her mother because she'd like flinch every time her mother would do something, you know. You know, it's terrible to see it, you know. I mean, you see it on the subway where you see, you know, there's like a little 2-year-old or something, a little pretty 2-year-old girl, and the mother's like, I told you to shut up! Now shut up! You know, or there's like, you know, and it's just like, it's really a shame. It's really sad. You know, and so see, it is self-existently good. It is self-existently tasty. Is it okay?
Is it, as long as it's not chocolate?
No. He's not going to leave now. He's going to stay here watching.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. No? All right. Good.
I'll be back.
Perfect. So it doesn't mean, you know, it doesn't mean to say, I can't ever not like something. I mean, just like not ever liking something, right? It's hot. Want a drink? No, you're such a cute little nose. Anyway, all right. It's just like ignorantly liking something. Enjoy a good meal, right? It doesn't mean if you see someone behaving badly, right? Doesn't mean if you see someone behaving badly that you should tolerate it and permit it. No, just kidding. Totally teasing.
I'm having a mental affliction.
No, that's great. It's fine. I'm just teasing. It's you know, if you see somebody mistreating someone, it's not like, oh well, I can't dislike that. I can't dislike anything, right? I mean, the point of this ignorantly liking and disliking things is not to go through life saying, I should never have a goal. I should never have a purpose. I should never like anything. I should never aspire or strive for anything. That's not the point, right? Or I should never dislike anything. Or I should never say, don't do that. Or, You know, I don't like that, or whatever the case might be. You know, I mean, if you see someone doing something that you think is inappropriate as a bodhisattva, then you have a responsibility to say, you know, don't do that. You know, that's, you know, you shouldn't do that. You know, and you can't do it with affliction, right? Or it's ignorance. It's ignorantly disliking. You know, you can dislike something, but shouldn't ignorantly dislike it. It's not like that's a bad person, and therefore I have to tell them to stop because I'm right and they're wrong, and I know and they don't. And you know, that's what we typically do, right? So it's going to be this thing of, look, I don't know who anybody is. These could be two saints acting out some beautiful play for my benefit so that I can practice being a bodhisattva. I have no idea who they are. You know? So I need to approach it with some kind of wisdom and some kind of compassion and some kind of love and say, you know what, you can't treat people that way. You know, without the negativity and without the affliction. You know, then if they punch you, you have to try to punch them back without affliction. But that's harder, right? Not really. I mean, you know, that's what being a bodhisattva warrior is. You know, it's like somebody's like, oh yeah, who are you? You know, then you have to be able to, you know, deal with it, right? So without affliction, hopefully. So like that, right? Yeah, okay. So number 3, Nagyal. You say Nagyal?
Nagyal.
So Nagyal is, Na means me, and Gyal means king. Literally, I the king. Right? It's pride. So this is a big one. I mean, like I have, like, I didn't realize for so many years how bad it was in my mind. It's like, you know, you walk around going like, oh yeah, they have this wrong. Oh yeah, they have this wrong. Oh, that's bad fashion. Oh, you know, bad hair. You know. Oh, you know, but they're not doing this right. They're not doing that right. This thing's wrong with them. That thing's wrong with them. I'm better than them. You know, it's just like this for me, anyways. The years of this mental chatter of like, what's wrong with everybody else, you know, and how great I am, and how wonderful I am, and you know, yada yada yada, right? And there are actually 9 kinds of pride, all of which are diluted that they go into, which, you know, and I'm not going to, but it's like you can have pride based upon accurately perceiving yourself as better than them. Like, I really am smarter than them, and I really am more beautiful than them, and I really am whatever, you know, than them. And then you can have pride which is not based on anything at all. You think you're smarter than them, and you think you're more beautiful than them, but in fact you're not. You know, you're really not any better. You know, you're actually worse, but you're walking around telling yourself you're better, right? So anyway, there are 9 different permutations like that. You know, this kind of feeling of superiority, condescension, putting down others, you know, it's all negative mental process, right? And it's, you know, it's a kind of mental attack on another person, really. If you, I mean, in my opinion, it's a kind of mentally attacking someone else in their own mind. You know, it's like, oh, you this, you that, you the other. You know, I mean, not saying it, but the thoughts are there, right? The, you know, the energy's there, the afflictions are there in the mind, right? So, you know, very full of ourselves. This kind of pride where we're very full of ourselves. You know, we think we're hot stuff, and you know, it's to no one's benefit. It's not to our benefit. It's not to other people's benefit. Some kind of arrogance and affliction. I mean, unfortunately, pride leads to stupidity karmically, and dull mental faculties. So, you know, they say that, look, there are countless lamas who are great lamas and great realized spiritual beings who memorize, you know, huge texts, and great realized meditators and practitioners, and they're dead, and nobody even remembers their name. So who are you? Who do you think you are? You know, I mean, it's like some great being, you know, is like dead and gone, and within a, you know, fairly short period of time, you know, 100 years or 200 years or whatever it is, nobody even remembers their existence. Why do you think you're special? Why do you have pride? Why are you walking around going, how great am I? You know, I mean, there's no real reason for it. You know, it's just this crazy mental affliction. So, and it's not a put down. It's not meant as a put down. You know, this kind of pride, which is uplifting, right? Which is positive, which is encouraging, is actually a good thing, right? Some kind of you call it like healthy pride, some kind of noble feeling, is actually very productive and very good. And I think we beat ourselves up. It's funny, you know, we beat ourselves up and then we beat other people up, right? It's like, I'm no good, you know. I can't do anything. I'm just, you know, blah, 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 and don't have anything to offer. And you can never, you know, get a big realization or get enlightened in this life or whatever, you know. And then we walk around going, oh yeah, they're a failure and they're a loser, and you know, it's just like it's just the same negativity applied to ourselves and applied to others, right? So this kind of pride is fine in a healthy, positive way, right? Like, and in the higher teachings and in the secret teachings, pride is a positive pride, and a positive, very highly positive feeling about oneself is a critical component of those teachings and those practices. You know, one has to walk around with this very strong sense of pride, virtuous, positive, uplifting pride. You know, so nothing wrong with pride from its own side. It's just a question of whether it's some kind of delusion and affliction, right? So all of our good personal qualities come from our past morality and past ethics. You know, the scriptures say, look, if you want to know if you were virtuous in your past life, take a look at yourself. Are you beautiful? Are you smart? You know, are you successful? Well, that's all from virtues in the past life. You know, I mean, don't be prideful about it. You know, just be happy that you know you live ethically in your past lives. You know, and you know, try to do the same this time for the future, right? So,
but how do you fight this one?
How do you fight pride? Tell yourself you're worthless? No, I mean, right? That's what we do. I mean, we say, oh, I can't be proud because I don't have it.
It's kind of an ego, right?
It is. It's, for me personally, I can just say for me personally, when it creates enough of a problem for me, then I deal with it. I mean, honestly, right? Like, and I don't know if it's human nature, it's my nature. Often I don't deal with things until they bite me, you know, until they come back and hit me in the back of the head or bite me in the butt, you know. When something creates enough of a problem for me, then I have an incentive to deal with it. I mean, just as an ordinary human being, right? So that's one of the...
Doesn't understanding where your current situation comes from,
yeah,
kind of puts you in place.
Well, there's two things, right? There's the formal training, which is what you're referring to, right? Which is what classes are all about, and texts are all about, and scriptures are all about, and we talk about it regularly on an ongoing basis, which is you're supposed to think this way, right? You're supposed to think about X, Y, and Z, and therefore not have pride, right? But in fact, do we do that? In fact, do we walk around going like, oh yeah, I'm not going to be judgmental towards that person because it's going to cause me this problem, and I don't want this problem anymore, and I'm really trying to get rid of this problem. This is a really huge problem that's ripening in my life right now, and it's really up and it's really serious, and I don't want it anymore, and now I'm motivated to really change and correct that behavior. That's how often it works for me. You know, it takes some kind of negative incentive to improve my behavior often, right? But then one could try to, hopefully one responds to positive teachings and says, look, I understand what I'm supposed to do, and if I do this, I'll get this positive reward. You know, if I think about things correctly and if I engage with things in a virtuous way, then I will have these positive karmic ripenings and positive outcomes. So some people, you know, work well with a positive motivator, some people work well with a negative motivator. I don't know which you are. But, you know, that's why the teachings have both, you know. It's like, do you want to burn in hell? You know? No, I'm just, you know. As, you know, Master Shantideva goes into it, right? So, how do you do it in a practical sense? A lot of study, a lot of training. Like just walking over here tonight, right? I'm just, for half an hour walking over here is like, I'm going to really pay attention to being judgmental. I'm not going to be judgmental, right? And I'm going to just like, for 30 minutes, I'm going to make efforts to not be judgmental towards anyone or anything, you know? And really work on clearing that and purifying.
No, more like the ego part.
Which part?
Like the ego,
mm-hmm.
You know, to be yourself, like, I don't know, this kind of...
I'm special kind of thing?
Sí, kind of.
Okay. Well, you are special.
Well, there is a mental affliction.
Doesn't have to be.
Well...
It can be.
We are studying that.
There could be a mental affliction with that. right? If there is a mental affliction with that, right, then that's what they're saying. They're saying,
no, one thing is self-esteem and another thing is ego.
yeah, well, negative ego.
Yes.
I mean, look, we exist. I'm John, right? I'm here. I'm blah, 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 blah. It's true. It's conventional reality, okay? As long as it's a valid perception, it's our reality, okay? Now, obviously we want to live in some kind of ethical, virtuous, balanced way. If we're out of balance, and we're not being ethical, and we're not being virtuous, then we have to bring that about, right? And then how to do that. And it becomes a question of the specific affliction and the specific issue and the specific antidote, right? So, you know, if we're walking around saying, I'm great, and I'm better than others, then how do we, you know, we have to bring ourselves down. So how do we bring ourselves down, right? And, you know, then you get into all the classical things of, you know, think about death, you know, you could die at any moment. There's lots and lots of meditations, I'm sure, to feel like I better get serious about paying attention and being virtuous and being a bodhisattva and doing the right thing and thinking the right thing. Because again, this is based upon ignorance, you see? And we're going to get into it. So anytime we're walking around going, I'm so hip, and I am so cool, and I am so beautiful, and I am so much better than everybody else, self-existence, right? They're out there existing in a particular way from their own side. I'm over here existing in a particular way from my own side, and I'm better.
To the same thing.
Self-existence. It's just self-existent, ignorant view. And, you know, it's liking me and disliking them. It's both combined, you know? I mean, self-existent, ignorant. So, like, you know, it's like that. So, yeah.
Well, which is also just another way of saying that both ends of it are illusions. I mean, what we really are is beyond the dualistic mind and something really beautiful that we can only begin to imagine. You know, so like, there's that too. You know?
It's kind of a positive imagining, you mean?
Well, I'm just saying that all of, you know, it's all empty, right? It's all illusion, in a sense.
So what does that? So what does that lead
to? You know,
to?
you talk about living in a dream, you know, seeing it all as part of this dream world, and practicing seeing. In the Lojong, they talk about watching your life as if it's a movie or if it's a dream. You know, and there's this distancing you can get, this sort of objectification that you can get, where you see that it's all. I mean, the good and the bad that you think that you see, it's all arising and falling. It's all, you know, and yes, we're seeing it as self-existent. It's the ignorance that binds us to it. But for me, I find that very liberating, and that in both in the sense of creating kind of compassion and also, you know, a little bit of distance from it, because it's hard, you know, like I can't always stop in the moment and rationalize my way through it and say, well, you know, how do I want to, you know, whatever.
Yeah, the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life presents many, many techniques for dealing with situations and circumstances to trick ourselves to not being negative.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, he goes through many iterations of, you know, if this happens, behave like this. You know, at least, you know, be like a piece of wood. You know, don't respond or restrain yourself. Or, I mean, so he goes through a lot of different techniques and methods. What we experience is our valid reality. You know, it is what's ripened upon us, and it is what we're validly perceiving and experiencing. And then after that, it's what do we do with our mind to deal with it, you know, and to cope with it, and to engage it in a way which is not negative, and which is hopefully positive and virtuous. And there are a lot of ways to do it. Yeah. So whatever, you know, we have each person has to find the methods and techniques which work best for them and which are most effective for them. So yeah. So okay. Please say Marikpa.
Marikpa.
Ma is not, and Rikpa is knowing, not knowing. This refers to ignorance, but not in an emptiness sense. This is just not understanding, sort of like plain old educational ignorance. So not being, not generally understanding things like the law of karma. Like you just don't know about it, didn't learn it, don't know what it is, don't live according to those laws because you don't know them, right? Doesn't refer to seeing things as self-existent.
That's interesting.
So
to exist mean lack of information, or?
Yeah, it's just like plain old ordinary ignorance. Like, I mean,
Conventional ignorance.
yeah, like I never knew that Paris was in France. You know, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, like a lot of time we get other emotion inflations because we don't know the full picture of even conventional
Yeah.
things. So this is what the.
It's just plain old, generally not understanding. That's all. Generally not understanding things or not understanding how things work. Like, just didn't know, don't get it, don't understand.
Like ignorance is not an excuse from the law or something. You're still in trouble by the law,
Right,
even
right.
if you don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose you could say, if you want to talk about this as a mental affliction, and a way to paraphrase it would be, we're pretty clueless about a lot karmically. Right? There's a lot we don't know, and a lot we're not aware of, and a lot we don't understand karmically about what we should and shouldn't be doing. That would be one way to perhaps elaborate upon it, right? As Hector was saying, it's like, you know, ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking it, right? And just in an ordinary sense, right? Please don't buy it. Yeah. Okay, tetsom, please say tetsom.
Tetsom.
Which is doubt. And this is kind of a lazy doubt. You know what, let's take a break. Take a break and we'll pick up with doubt when we come back. It'll be okay. Please enjoy your snacks and your cookies and whatever may be out there.
Does anyone have a ticket for it so you can look?
Thank you for teaching.
Pleasure. May it long continue.